Welcome to tonight's regular meeting, October 16th, 2024, with flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if you don't mind, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for my sake, for the recent victims of the hurricane, and for any other reason that you guys may have. Thank you. Roll call.
Mrs. Hooper. Dr. Krug.
Here.
Mrs. Krug. Here. Mr. Krumenocker.
Here.
Mrs. Krumenocker. Here. Mrs. Lee. Here. Mr. Basil. Ms. Zenshaw.
Okay. Any guests or patrons sign up to speak? As always, you have 5 minutes maximums. Please state your name and the township you are from. Mr. Shell.
Yes, my name is PJ Shell. I reside at 509 Shauna Road, Northern Cambria, Pennsylvania. And the topic I want to discuss tonight, which would be that you have as item A for board appointment. I just kind of want to reiterate what I feel needs to be said. So if you guys would go back and look at how the process works, we definitely didn't follow any type of due process here, but we know with the time constraints where if the Krumenockers are leaving, that PJ's got to get out of here. So I'll just basically go back through. The school code for our code says, if a school director shall neglect or refuse to attend 2 consecutive regular meetings of the board, unless detained by sickness or prevented by necessary absence by the district. Not once was I asked why I missed or anything like that. Nor, if you read further into that policy, I'm supposed to get ample notice of this is what your plans are. But we know why I didn't get notice either. There's also a case study that shows, that I should be able to, speak on my behalf, which if you want to say I got to do that, I didn't get to do that in a public forum, but that's what you guys chose to do. The other thing was, as it says, preceded by illness. I also was willing to provide you guys a doctor's slip, which you guys kindly negated that you didn't want. But to go a little further, just to tell you how I feel singled out, I'm gonna pull something up here real quick. Just so you know, this has been a reoccurring thing for the board. So for example, September 7th, 2021, absent Dr. Krug, Dr. Krug and Miss Norma Krug. September 21st, 2021, Dr. Krug, Norma Krug. October 5th, 2021, Dr. Krug, Norma Krug. You can also go down through the attendance and you can see Mr. Messina, Miss multiple board meetings back to back, the same thing with Mr. Booker. There was also never any time that their question was in place of should they be removed or an excuse was asked of them or anything in that nature. The sad part is going back and forth with you guys, and I'm not going to elaborate on executive session, but to say that I failed to commit any of my duties, I argue that point because everything that you guys have done has been business as usual. If you go back and look at how you voted, as I said, 97% of the time, your votes carry the same way. The shocking thing about that would be, I worked my due diligence on my committee that I've always done. I wasn't given any notice. I wasn't doing anything. So why the president set for me, so to speak? And as I said, I guess the rumor is true that you two are most likely moving. And if I was still a sitting board member and you guys leave before I give my formal recognition, then you guys don't control the board. It's very easy and obvious to see that that's the case. So, just to kind of tell you where I'm at in the process, I filed complaints with the PSBA. I've also waiting for a call back from the Department of Education, and I am, in the process of meeting with an attorney, and I will be bringing a formal lawsuit against U5, in that realm, because out of respect for what I feel I have done for the district, whether you want to say this or that, and you want to say that I didn't do something, it's easy to also point fingers and say that, especially to me, but I could say that about when Norma was board president, and I sat in a courtroom with everybody during the first injunction hearing, and as we leave the courtroom, PJ, we're gonna really need you at this next meeting. I go to the meeting, Norma doesn't show up because she doesn't want to sign the paperwork that her job as president tells her to do.
25 seconds.
Okay, I appreciate that. But as I said, it's not about what is right. It's about power and control. That's all this has ever been about. And it's since one side had it for 1 year, let's do whatever we can for this year. It doesn't matter whose reputation or anything that you want to use or tarnish or what somebody has done. I could have easily just left at my own will, but now you're gonna have a pain in your ass until I'm done doing what I need to do. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay, Leanne Bettendorf.
Hi. I was away.
Name and where.
Oh, my name's Leanne Battler, 1420 Riverside Avenue, Northern California.
Okay, thank you.
I have been catching up on the Barnesburg Star, and I have to kind of agree with PJ, and I am very disappointed in this board for a couple of different reasons, okay? While I was away in Canada working, Mr. Krug, I guess your mother died, and I found out, Mrs. Lee, that you're his aunt. And that's how I found out. I didn't know that.
I'm not.
No, you're not?
No,
Okay,
I'm
well,
not.
I apologize. But also the family affair that's going on here, I have a real problem with. I had a problem with it. I had a problem with it. I have my 5 minutes, ma'am. I have my problem with it because I was approached by a variety of people at the election time that said, vote for these 5 people. And I said to those people, I could never vote for anybody in the same family on the same board. To me, that would never happen. I've worked in Cambria County for 25 years. I have seen politics at its best and at its worst. And I personally think that if PJ was given an opportunity and told, and I believe PJ, you're just like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You know, you should have resigned if you wanted to have a replacement place. That's how I feel. And that woman had the opportunity, didn't do it either, and now everybody wants to complain about that. But this here conglomerate, I think, is a real mess, and you're doing a disservice morally to this area. And I don't appreciate anything. Mr. Krug, the last time I was at a board meeting and you were conducting it over at the other room, it was totally out of control. You were rude to your board members. I mean, you were shouting at them. It was just total chaos. And it's not like I've missed these meetings because I just didn't want to come. I have not been in town. And the whole thing is, I didn't know they were videoed, or maybe I would have been listening to them while I was away. But to me, I think you're all making a big mistake. And I think it might just be a moral issue rather than against any rules or regulation. But you ought to think twice about that, because you're all going to be up for election another time. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you.
Real well.
Diane Waxman.
I'm Diane Westminski, 622 Municipal Road, Northern Cambria. I will apologize if you've already done it, but it's wonderful to recognize the flood folks. But this summer, we've had 4 teachers die. John Bernard, Sally Shervinack, Paul Artley, and Jill Bannock. Pillars in our school over the years. Probably hundreds of years of service to Northern Cambria. And I think they should be remembered as well. Okay, the first agenda item tonight is board appointment. PJ Shell's seat replacement will be, as I suspect, your own personal person to politically ensure the five's power base. PJ's removal and all of this replacement was done without public notice. And from what PJ said, even without his notification and public input. And I do apologize for that. Details on all this were done in executive session with the solicitor's consult, I would assume. At the last meeting, names were submitted with permission and without permission or even contact. Really? This is the procedure of the board upon advice of the attorney. I'm questioning that. In accordance with past practice, and not to go into a lengthy thing because you can Google it yourself, past practice is everywhere. It is part of union procedure. It is part of canon law if you're Catholic. That's how things got written down from, I think it was 1085. But anyway, it is part of the legal system. When you become an attorney, you understand past practice. So in accordance with past practice that has been used and is familiar to the NC residents for probably more than 30 years, this is being done in a different way. So there's a brand new precedent being set in this procedure with no public input. I brought the results of the election with me. The reason I did is because, and I will leave this for permanent record, because I took the election results where Carol Lee got 1,264 votes and Nora Habochak, whose name was submitted at the last meeting, because I did tune in to the last meeting, even though I have been absent from a few. There's a different, she got 1,062. The person that got 7 votes more than her, his name was not submitted, and that was April Fry. When you look at the percents, there were 8,917 votes for school board. That's because you could vote for 5. Okay, that wouldn't be that way if you could only vote for 1. The difference between Carol Lieb and Nora Habochak was 2.27% of voters who cast their vote for Mrs. Habochak. If you look at the difference between the last person who was seated on the board, which is Mara Krummenacher, who received 1,161 votes, there is only 1.21% difference. Now, the people who voted for Nora Habochak, who lost legitimately, I'm not questioning that in any shape or form. She had 1,000 plus people cast a ballot for her. And I suspect, having been at work, because as you guys know, I was at the polls for 13 hours that day, because you were there too. Probably those 1,000 are not the 1,000. I won't bet the house on it, but those 1,000 are probably not the 1,000 that Carol or Mara or Jerry received. Not the same people. So I say to you, please reconsider past practice over 30 years of using it and seat the person who had the ambition, the experience, and the backbone to put her name on the ballot, lost legitimately, but now could replace PJ Shell, which I don't think that should have happened that way either.
30 seconds.
Okay, my concern over Mr. Shell is that what if you do this to a student who has a mental health issue and you're going to keep him or her in the lower grade or not pass classes and not give the sympathy and the consideration that is needed? I attended one of Mr. Shell's presentations. Have you?
Thank you. And Karen Messina.
Hi, my name is Karen Messina and I live at 53 Mountain Drive, and I am a taxpayer in the district. I have never served on the school board, but I have had family and friends serve for many years, them all trying to do the right things. Years passed and the member could no longer fulfill their duties and as elected official. They did not just appoint a friend or a family member to fill the vacant seat. They took it the next vote getter from the ballot. The people who run for the board have gone through all the proper channels. They went to the courthouse, they went out and got the signatures, they stood at the multiple voting polls to get the elected votes. I feel this is totally wrong to just appoint someone who's never showed interest in running for the school board, or someone who's interested in the district, the community, the teachers, and of course, our children in their best interest.
Thank you. Okay, administrative reports, superintendent's report.
A couple of things. I do have two examples, board members, of the yearbooks. If you wanted to look at the previous yearbook and the new yearbook that we're talking about. And there's some information here about, you know, why we're choosing to go with the other one. So we'll pass those down. Also, Northern Cambria High School, we're going to have a Veterans Day assembly. So I'm very excited about this, and this will be on Tuesday, November 19th, starting at 8:30 a.m. So this is something that I believe we've done it in the past, but it's been a while, so we'll be restarting this, and we'll have light reception with coffee and pastries in the high school cafeteria. And then we'll have recognition assembly and program in our high school auditorium at 9:30. So you'll be seeing lots of information about that. And lastly, I know we are going to have some new board members coming onto the board, and I want to make sure I welcome them, and we want to meet with them. I have an agenda and different things that I'd like to go over. Basically, the 5 board members that are here have decided that they're not going to renew my contract. So I'm hoping that, as you said, Dr. Krug, maybe I'll get lucky. And maybe I'll get lucky, and the 3 people that come onto the board maybe will be willing to give me a chance and work with me. So I'm hopeful for that. And that's my report.
If it's okay, though, next time, could you leave executive session, but you're on executive session? Like we always said.
That was quite appropriate here.
Anyway.
Public knowledge.
Financial report.
Financial report for the month of September, beginning balance in, this is the FNB account, beginning balance is $377,403. The total local source revenues were $1,014,878. The total state and federal sources of revenue were $899,341. And miscellaneous revenues and transfers were $1,483,744 for total receipts in September of $3,397,965. Our expenditures were $2,612,854, which leaves us an ending balance of $1,162,514 as of September the 30th. And the other athletic accounts and activities accounts are listed there as well. In the Pliget accounts, we have 5 of those. The general fund balance at the end of September was $2,687,906. Our capital reserve account totaled $75,224. Our athletic fund is $138,714. The Series 2022 bond account is $5,985,741. And the 2023 bond account is $9,972,919 for a total of $18,860 and $506 in the Pliget accounts. The dividends earned during the month of September in Pliget were $118,064, and for the fiscal year starting July 1st and ending in September the 30th, the interest earned in our Pliget investments is $247,783. That's it for the finance.
I have one question, Lynn. On expenditures and transfers out, it says it said disbursements for September 2024, $2,164,590.30. What does that all entail?
That is just the general fund.
No, it says disbursements for September. Is that all bills paid and everything like that?
Yeah, that's bills, payroll. It's the entire, if you look, so the payroll shows there at 418,000. The disbursements, 2,164,000. And transfer to cafeteria is 30,000.
No, what I'm asking is what does disbursements mean?
Expenditures, money sent out.
Okay, well, I understand that. The reason I'm asking is because the bills paid is $1,684,753.40. Does that usually not match?
No, they will not match because the bills may not include the. So where are you seeing that? The bills that she's
It's, well,
given you?
I'm looking at the payments to be made today.
That's different.
Okay,
Because,
that's what I'm asking,
yeah,
because
these
it
are
goes
different,
from
this is a
October
different,
10th.
right. These are October, those, the amounts that are being dispersed now are dated
That's what I
October.
was wondering.
So the ones you looked at last month should be very close to that. But yeah, we're looking at a month ahead of time
All right.
on those.
That was just my question. You have some questions on that stuff? All right. Item A, board appointment. Years old, Board of Education fills the vacant office of director on the Northern Canada School District Board of Directors by appointing Bob Westrick for the remainder of the term according to the provisions of the Pennsylvania Public School Code, section 319, and Northern Canada School District Policy 004. I put Bob's name in there because he's the one that was recommended by the most number of board members when I asked for recommendations last meeting. So I'm going to make a motion for that. Second, Mr. Jerry Krimenacher.
Is he a cousin
Any questions? I have no relation whatsoever.
to anybody on this board?
But I know,
Okay, just questioning now, because that's what I heard.
okay? That's it. Any questions or comments on that? Okay, let's do a roll call.
Dr. Crew,
Yes.
Mrs. Crew,
Yes.
Mr. Krimenacher,
Yes.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
Yes.
Mrs. Lee.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the other members were absent. Okay. I believe we would like to have him sworn in, and in order to have this sworn in legally, we have to have a notary public to do that, and Ms. Cindy Nelson from Belsana is here to do that tonight. Make sure the solicitor gave it to her. We need to hear.
Bob has raised his right hand. You solemnly swear or affirm that you will support, obey, defend the Constitution of the United States, Constitution of this Commonwealth, and discharge your duties of your office with fidelity.
Will.
You'll sign here, please.
A copy of this will be included in the minutes. Right here? Yes. I think you have to sign that. You said it.
Yes.
Page 16. Okay. Bob, you may take a seat at the table. Thank you. Thank you very much. Please include his name in the roll call vote from now on. Mr. Bob Westrick, okay? Okay, let's go to minute approval. Be it resolved, the board minutes the September 4, 2024 committee of the whole and the September 18, 2024 regular meeting are approved as presented, and I'll make the motion for that. Second, Mr. Jerry Krimenacher. Questions or comments on those guys? You probably wouldn't have had a chance to read those, Bob, so. it's up to you. But, you did? Yes. Oh, good for you. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Motion carries.
All right, treasurer's report be resolved, the treasurer and financial reports for September 2024 be approved as presented or amended, received and filed. I'll make a motion for that. So approved. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Motion carried.
Okay, the enrollment report, you can see that's in front of you. I'd like to tell you again that we are now under 800 students for the district in Northern Cambria. All right, buildings and grounds, access architecture update. Do we have any updates from them?
Hank is on vacation and, he did say that if you, had any questions for him, he would be happy to, answer those for you. I can get those to him.
Mr. Lee, or Mrs. Lieb and I have had a couple discussions with about the building, and I think it might be, we thought it might be time to have a building meeting.
Yes,
Uh,
I think that we need to have a building meeting to discuss where we are. Since some of the building is completed and it's being occupied, I think it should be a separate meeting.
We'll do that. I also have a few architectural, I believe, faux pas that we should bring up to Hank when he's around to ask him, so. And what we're gonna do about it, so, we'll have another, we'll get a building meeting, we'll get it out to you when we're gonna have it, and it'll be just for building purposes only, okay? All right, there'll be no voting at that meeting, it'll be a workshop, like we used to have. Okay, I go with you, you will let me know when it's gonna happen. And I'll do that.
Are you talking soon, like a couple of weeks?
I think it needs to be relatively
Yes, I
soon.
think we need to have it relatively soon.
All right, student lunch accounts, you have that in front of you. The Board of Education authorizes the administration to develop a process for collecting or cancellation of debt owed by students who have withdrawn from the district. Everybody okay with that? I'm gonna make a motion, this is what we discussed at the top. Mr. Jerry Krimenacher, questions or comments on that? Everybody good with that, let them do it? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
New business and finance and Chromebook charging. Be resolved, Board of Education approved the purchase of a Chromebook charging locker at a cost of $9,666.10 with a 3-year agreement. After the initial 3 years, the support is $1,600 for an additional 3 years of software upgrades. I'm gonna make a motion. Say what's no approved. Questions or comments, since I made the motion, I'm gonna have one. I think this is a luxury item that we do not need. I asked last time how many Chromebooks we had going bad each day. I was told 10, but after that, it came out to about 1.5. Which means that the librarian is really not using a lot of time to do this, and that was the idea of having this. So I think this is a luxury we just don't need. That's my opinion. Anybody else have any other one?
Yeah, my thought also, just because when we were told, when the final count was in, that we replaced maybe 1 Chromebook a day. That, having a system that costs 10,000 right now, we can't quite afford because we have a school that we're building and we keep getting into change orders. So our costs are high. So this is something that I feel has to wait.
Anybody else? Let's do a roll call.
Dr. Krug,
Nope.
Mrs. Krug,
No,
Mr. Krimenacher,
No.
Mrs. Krimenacher,
No.
Mrs. Lee? Yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Westover?
Sorry.
WSTRICK, no,
I can spell it, I just can't say it, I guess.
it's okay.
Did you say no?
No.
Okay. Motion fails.
Okay, the ESSER grant, discuss the ESSER grant. I think Mrs. Brooke had something she wanted to discuss on it.
yeah, I didn't know, as far as, I was included in the email early on, but it already passed the date. Can you give us an update as to where we are with that? ESSER's grant money, what happened to it? And why the amount that we had entitled to us was not used?
Can I?
What-
I'll handle that.
Okay,
First of all, I will say that as far as the ESSERS is concerned, any of the financial information for ESSERS totally rests on my shoulders. The when we first, back in October of 21, or August, I'm sorry, of 21, is when this ESSERS money first came out. Since that time, we have had from ESSERS over 130 separate, and we get them maybe every week, every 2 weeks. There's updates, so there's always changes in what happens with ESSERs. That is this program was established after COVID naturally, and brand new program. So it's different than anything that's ever been put out from PDE or the federal government. So we are everyone is learning the ESSERS grant and the ESSERS as it goes. As I said, we've been dealing with title programs forever. We hardly ever get any emails or anything from PDE regarding updates or questions or anything of the sort for the title programs. They've been in place for years. They're set in stone. Everyone kind of knows what's happening. ESSERS is different. It's a whole new animal. So that being said, what happened way back before Dr. Pasonic even was hired here, the ESSERS grant was put together by Mr. Rocco, myself, and the principals. We sat down, discussed it, and again, back then, we don't know what we know now. We knew what types of things they said that we were allowed to apply for, and that's what we did. One of the big things, and I want the board to understand this, one of the big things that we, as an administrative team, tried to do when this ESSERS money came out was try to not use any of that money to replace or hire people and then kick ourselves in the butt down the road when the ESSERS money failed or stopped, which we knew it was going to. And then we would have to pull money out of our pockets to continue those programs. So we try to retain what we had. We used ESSERS money for items that PDE and the feds wanted us to for. That was one of the big things was learning loss, mental anguish that the kids went through because of not being in school for years. I apologize. We'll probably call me. My brother.
Voice privacy contents have been updated. To continue, review the updated items on your screen.
So again, we did not want to use the money for things that we would find out that we started and couldn't continue. So this ESSERS money was one of the few grants and one of the few distributions that we get from the federal or state government that allows us to supplant things that we already have. Most of them come in and they want you to supplement some of the programs. So you can't take money from most grants that we get and say, okay, now we're going to use it and replace something we already have. They say, no, you've got to pay with that original thing with the monies that you've already generated from your tax bases or other grants and add to it. So you can't take this money and use it. That was different. ESSER said we could replace it. So we did. We took some money, and the thought process behind all of that was try to use as much as that ESSER's money that we legally could to help reduce the costs of the construction project. We knew we were allowed to use it for HVAC. We knew we could use it for a significant amount of money towards paying maintenance costs, which we did. We had maintenance staff that we were allowed to replace their funds or the amount of money that we would have spent out of our general fund on maintenance. We took that ESSER's money and did that. So that was a significant amount. In our first ESSER's money, I think it was $300,000. In the second, it was another $200,000. So there's $500,000 there that we basically took and instead of spending our general fund money on that, we spent it on those people. So long story short is the ESSER's money was generally used and our anticipation was, let's not commit any of this money to anything until we know how this building project goes. Because as I said, we could kind of force money out of the ESSER's into helping our general fund and spending it on things that weren't really, I think, the intent of the federal government for us to spend. I think they wanted to see us spend money on increasing teachers, making sure that there was more mental health for these kids, making sure there was more other types of things that they felt that they felt COVID caused. So, and we try to do that because I think in the long run and down the road, whenever the feds and the state people look at how Northern Cambria spent that money, they want to make sure we did do some of that. So we get close to the end of the project. All of a sudden this year, federal government said, or the state government says, we're giving Northern Cambria about $500,000 more than we have typically been. Well, that was a boon to us. So we thought there's no need for us to try to funnel any more money from the ESSERs into our building project because we'll be able to use this additional $500,000 to help towards our building project. So let's now use some of that ESSER's money to do things that was intended, I believe, by the federal government for that ESSER's money to be used on, and that is helping children, whatever. So this whole thing that's just come up in the last couple of weeks, we only had until the end of the year or the end of September to commit money. So we've already committed money. We have spent enough money that I can move things around to make sure we're covered. We're not going to lose the money. Dr. Fasonic said to me, Roland, what do we need to do to make sure we don't have any problems? I said, we don't really need to move any of that ESSER's money into help for the building project. Let's use it for things that you feel are necessary to help these kids to move forward with the types of things that the federal government, I think, intended us to use those funds.
And he showed me it had to be for mental health supports. Part of the problem is that during COVID, all of these organizations that were brought in were already receiving their grant money. So we didn't have to pay for counselors. We didn't have to pay for victim services, places that we would normally spend money. We didn't have to because they were getting their own COVID money. So he asked me to take a look and see what we could spend the money on. And it had to be done by the end of September. And that's why I sent the email out. I wasn't trying to hide anything. I wasn't trying to say, cover up that I didn't do my job or he didn't do his job, as was insinuated. Actually, it was stated, not insinuated. The fact of the matter is that we came down to this deadline. We needed to, he said, if you can spend the money, spend the money.
Spend the money on items that were
for
more
the social,
related
emotional.
to social emotional. We have other avenues. We have spent significant money on social and emotional ongoing things, but this
Right.
was something that Doc felt would be more important to set up this programming so that it would help down the road.
Will
So
the
again, there
federal
wasn't
government?
any, and maybe it was in my misinterpretation or letting her know that, we weren't going to lose the money. It's a matter of spending it on items that were kind of quote unquote things that we probably would never really even look at if we weren't getting ESSER's funding. So now we got this ESSER's funding. Let's spend some money on the things that they wanted us to spend that on.
And my
So-
understanding was that if we didn't spend it on the social emotional, that we would lose it. And so that's why I sent out what I sent out. But it was not to hide anything. It's not to pretend to, not do my job. It's just the fact we had this money. We wanted to spend it. And that was it. There's nothing ill toward. with
Yeah,
any of it.
had there been 3 programs that were $1,500 each, it wouldn't have been an issue. We would have just spent the money. But because it was one big program that was $6,000, that was above and beyond what the board approves us to do on our own. So that's why we brought it to the
We
board.
had the money already, the grant money was already there, the grant money was approved before.
Right.
But because of the request that anything over 2,000, we brought it back again. And that's why.
And the problem is when it was sent to me, it was September 25th. It was supposed to be done by September 30th,
Mhm.
and it looked like I was expected to sign a contract without board approval, and that is never gonna happen.
No, we understand that, and I'll take the blame for getting that back to her that late. The discussion took place about, well, if we can get something like that, if you think if Doc, again, that's not part of my expertise, I'm not in that world. But if that's something they felt as educators that we should have, that's not to say we can't spend it tomorrow. I mean, we can spend it out of our own general fund money if it's an important thing, but because that obligation had to be made by by the end of the month, then that was the reason. And again, I understand what you're saying. That's bringing it down to the end.
It wasn't gonna be an issue until it was brought up by the other board members who are not here tonight. It was fine with me. I said, my advice was give the money back.
Yeah.
That was only $6,500.
Well,
Give the money
yeah,
back.
and I don't agree with that from a
But that's where
financial
we were,
perspective. No, but I get that. But and I think there was misinterpretation as far as whether that was gonna have to be given back. It was not having to be given back because we can find a way to put that money in a number of places. We can take some of the money in actuality, it's a pain, but we have other grants that have the same kind of items that we were allowed to spend in this ESSER fund that we can move around. So we can change the budget in one grant, take that money, put it in the ESSERs, and then find something else to put into the PCCD grant. So sometimes it's just moving money from one place to the other. But again, in this circumstance, this item that we were looking at or that Doc wanted to purchase was kind of right up there with falling in line with that I'm sorry, the ESSER's grant.
And if it would have been brought to us before that, it would have
No,
passed.
I get that. And I said, I'll take full blame for that because what I was trying to do, and quite honestly, I just want the board to know, and I'm not looking for any kind of sympathy, but these ESSER's funds and this monitoring that they throw at us and all of the stuff that's happening with these funds has taken up so much more time than we had to spend on those kind of things prior to this. We've had 2 monitorings. This week, they sent another email out saying we need to add additional 32, they have 32 not questions, but items that they need for us to back up what we've been doing on this. So my point is that it's just been kind of overwhelming. And again, you board members should have had it earlier. Not the end of the world if, we can live without it. It's not something that we said, well, if we don't have this, this school district can't move forward. It's just a nice thing to have had if we wanted to use ESSER's funds for it. Now, down the road, if it's necessary, or if we feel that that's something that we can still use, the board can, if they want, take that funds out of the general fund and do it. So I just think it got blown out of proportion. I was off on vacation and I'm seeing the email and I'm like, man, this is not as bad as I think everybody's trying to make. It's just, I think some miscommunication when I talked to her and I made her assume that this was lost money, and it wasn't lost money. It was just a matter of moving it and getting it approved to use there if we did it by the 30th. So
That's a much better clarification, believe.
I have a question.
Sorry.
then. So then I want to know, was the money returned and how much was that amount?
there was no
for?
money.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
but by that date, you did not have a purpose for that amount, so.
No. All we wanted to do by that date is to be able to, that would free up money that we could spend on something else that we already had to use in there. So if we took that money for the $6,000, that would be a benefit to the students. Is it necessary and do we have to have it? No. Dr. Sonic felt that was a good thing to use that money for. And if we were going to buy that, we would have had to have committed it by then. We would have to have sent out a purchase order by September the 30th to buy that.
So we never received the $6,500.
No. We will receive the $6,500. we will then use something else to show for that $6,500. It just will not be software that would benefit the kids' mental health. It will be some other allowable item that the ESSER's funds have told us, or the ESSER's people have told us we can use it. So.
I believe that was the paper or the email that came to me. I had so many of them, I'm trying to recall. That it's the particular one that accounted for therapy dog, but the therapy dog was never voted on.
No, that's PCC grant.
Okay,
That's
that's
a
what I'm
different-
saying,
yeah.
so that's different, okay. Okay, so,
Yeah, and I understand where the confusion comes in, because we sit here and deal with it every day. But, there's so many, there's PCCD grants, we have 2 of those things that are kind of still going on at the same time. We had 3 different ESSER's grants that came through. So all of these funds are kind of to be used for the same type of things, but it's trying to spend the money in the one that best suits or that fits in that particular grant better than any of the others. So bottom line is this, we will not buy that software. It's too late to buy it through the grant. We can buy it anytime down the road, but we still have other things that we spent that ESSER's money on that we can use to get a reimbursement. ESSER's doesn't send us the money up front. We only get money from ESSER's
Right.
once I fill out a report and say, I have spent this much money. We are always behind the 8 ball, if you want to call it that. I never send in anything and ask for it unless we have the money spent. So that's kind of always like money in the bank for us. Right now, ESSER owes us money. And when we file the next quarterly report, we will get reimbursed for what we've already spent. So I don't anticipate that there will be any issue. The only thing that could be an issue is if by chance, and I'm not guaranteeing this, there may be something that we did that I'm not even aware of, that when they come in and do our monitoring, they're gonna say, well, wait a minute, that really didn't qualify or whatever we think it did. Wouldn't have spent it had it not. But I do totally believe that if in fact that would happen, I think PDE will say, what else do you got? What else did you spend that you can show us would fall under those categories that, for instance, we spent a heck of a lot of money on way more than we ever have on curriculum. We bought tons of curriculum with this ESSER's money, which is great, because when I sat on the board and whenever I started here, that was one of the big issues. Like, we need to upgrade our curriculum. So this came in at the right time. We've spent more on curriculum than I've shown on ESSER's. So if I need to, we can show some more of that on ESSER's and not on our general fund. So I think we're fine. I just think there was some miscommunication and things just got a little bit more heated than they needed to be.
So basically, ESSER is a reimbursement program up to a certain amount of money.
how far in advance do we know what our limits are?
As far as,
The Easter, year to year.
we
school year?
knew it from day one.
Okay.
We knew it from day one. However, again, I never wanted to tell the board and I never wanted to commit as to where we were spending our money because of this building project. So if I file a report and say, we're gonna use this much ESSER's money on these items, and then find out we needed some extra money to help with the building project, now I'm committed. So I didn't do that. I wanted to make sure that we looked at having enough money to cover and help us with the project and still stay within the guidelines of what ESSER's wants. So, like I said, we spent $500,000 on reimbursing payroll. That was just free money for us to take and use on the building project. And there were other things too that we typically spend general fund money on that we could have pulled out of that and used ESSER's money. But because we got the significant influx of money from the state this year, we knew that we didn't have to take that ESSER's money and use it for the building project. We had sufficient funds to carry us through and use some of that for the building project.
Anybody else? You covered? Okay. C, turn-in software.
Thank you.
Your goal, the Board of Education. Discuss and turn-in software for the high school to affect the AI generated documents. The cost of district is $3,548.98. I'm guessing that's annually.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that's it, 24, 25. Because that's just for the one school year.
Mr. Mark. Veronica? And Mr. Mark Crook, questions or comments?
Yeah, comment line. I don't mind having a program set in place, but my concern is that the attachment is all about the cost, not really how it's being used.
It's being used to detect plagiarism or so you run documents through it. So the teachers are using it. It's not for the kids.
But like who's monitoring it, who's using it, who has access to it, who, I just would like more information on it because we have a sheet giving us the costs and how that is run, but I'm not sure that I'm set on that this is the right program for our school. Have we tried others? Have we used others? Is there something we can compare it to?
This was requested by the high school ELA department. And they have colleagues who have used this software. It's recommended by other teachers. So it was a request from them, from the teachers for this specific software.
Okay, I just wish I had more info on it, so that's.
Do the teachers then look over the papers the kids submit, even if it goes through this?
Correct. The teachers would still grade them. This is not grading papers. This is just helping them to detect how much is being plagiarized.
So when software flags something as plagiarized, that's it? It's automatically.
Well, typically the teachers
someone
are
else.
going to investigate it a little bit more. They're not going to just, because that's a pretty serious accusation to
Yes.
have. And my teachers know that you better have some data to back that up. So that would be a first step. And then you would go and dig a little further to find the
So
source that they
there is
plagiarized
someone
from.
who's going to review.
The
what-
teacher,
Yeah.
the teacher.
I was worried that
So
that
how is-
wasn't happening.
So how is it any different than the teacher reading what the kids didn't, or on how it is? Like, what is it, what does
Well,
it
this
say?
is
then?
gonna catch that so much quicker. And it's a computer program, it's an AI program that will catch that, and it'll be able to tell the way the document is written. If it's a likelihood that it was being generated by artificial intelligence. That will then assist the teacher in knowing that, yes, that was something that was plagiarized, and then they can dig deeper.
Don't most of the high school students have to use like citations where they get their information from?
They do, but they're very good at it. You know, they can use citations and again. You know, you have, 50 students and you're doing 50 essays. That gets pretty cumbersome. So something like this will be a time saver for the teachers so that they can spend more time, doing individual, any type of writing program or any type of essay. The best type of feedback that the teacher can give is that one-on-one feedback with the student. So if this is one thing that can help them take that part off their plate, they can then spend more time with each individual student doing that feedback to help improve that writing.
I have one more question or concern. You're mentioning that this is for the high school ELA teachers brought this forth. What about, say, the sciences, the other programs? Are we going to allow usage for the entire high school and all the teachers to access this, or are we limited?
No, all the teachers have access to it.
Okay, I'm saying just because the ELA teachers brought this forward.
I'm sure
So
other
because
ones,
sciences, of
Mhm,
course, you
definitely.
you do papers and explain
Sure.
things, chemistry, you do explanations, experiments that are not duplicated, whatever the
Mhm.
case is. But I want to know, with this program, if, okay, then all of the high school teachers and
Yes,
even middle
middle
school,
school,
do they have
right.
access to it?
Everyone
Because it's
in the
mainly high
district
school
will have.
here.
Mainly, that's where it's going to be used, because that's where you're writing the bulk of your papers. But it will be available to all teachers in the district.
So I was even going to say in the other subject areas, or maybe there are some middle school teachers that would be interested in it.
Anything else?
That's all.
Roll call.
Mrs. Crew,
Yes.
Mr. Krimenacher,
No,
Mrs. Krimenacher,
Yes,
Mrs. Lee,
Yes.
Mr. Westrick,
Yes.
Dr. Crew.
No.
Motion fails.
Does it need five? Does
Yeah.
it need four?
I think that's fine.
for the expenditure of money, yeah,
I'm sorry, it's 5, yes. So it's 4, 2. There's one example where a 9-member board being present would have been nice. That may have passed with a 9-member board. I need Bradley Goldsmith law form, you guys see in front of you, it's for payment for $13,000. You guys know about this, so I'll make the motion. Awesome. Anybody have any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, community relations, nothing, curriculum, nothing, legislation, policy development, you guys have those in front of you. Hope you had a chance to read them as the appendices. Few changes in them, but honestly, I don't know if they needed to be made or not. But I'll make a motion. Mr. Mark Rocker, any questions or comments on any of them? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
And personnel. This item is written this way because we approved a sabbatical for this employee back in August. And in order to change how she's going to do this, we had to rescind that motion from August and then approve the second motion, so we combine this into one. So you can see how this, basically we're rescinding the sabbatical leave for the entire year. And then it's gonna be restructured for her to do the sabbatical, a medical sabbatical for the first 90 days. And then the person will use their sick days until the end of the school year for the rest of the stuff. Okay, so we're just changing how it's being done. So I'll make the motion. Jerry coming out there. What's your comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Full position, be resolved, Board of Education appoints Dr. Amanda Baglia as the school physician for the 2024-25 school year as per appendix number 8. I'm guessing this is because the current school position that we already approved is not doing the job.
She's very busy. She adopted a baby. And she's able to do some things, very limited, but not all of them. So having Dr. Valia as part of this role will be able to cover everything.
And Dr. Baglia is from where?
Marion Center.
Where
She works with IRMC.
Okay, I see.
Okay, how do we do payment on such a thing? Did we motion a second?
Everything is listed separately for payment, so they get paid
service.
per service. So
Okay,
whatever service
so-
they do, they'll get paid.
Okay, because that was my question. I just wrote prorated. How is it
It's
prorated?
called fee for service.
And I'm aware of that, but I didn't know if our contract specified differently.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Jerry coming out. Any questions or comments? You did it. All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Staff development, nothing, student activities. Be resolved, Board of Education authorized administration to pay for the current yearbook balance with Johnson's. I believe that's in this print. Okay, in the amount of $1,908.63. Ending our contract with the company, I believe that's from last year's, right?
Yes.
Okay, that is from 2023, 2024 school year. I'll make the motion. So Mrs. Montford. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Fundraiser calendar, you can see in front of you, anybody has the agenda can see that, I'm not gonna read them all. It's for the, what's in my report, so I'll make the motion for that. Anybody have any questions or comments on anything there, anything they should see All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
All right, transportation. Here's all Board of Education approves the following substitute bus drivers for the 24-25 school year, Brenda Jean Akins, Caitlin Lockhart, and Will B. Urena. And it says all the clearances have been reviewed, approved, and placed to be able to be placed on the agenda. Any motion, Mrs. Martin? Yours is all correct. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
And athletics, nothing at this time. So we'll go to payment of the bills. The result of payment of bills for the month of October 2024 be approved as presented or amended, received and filed, and I will make that motion. Then Mrs. Carol Lee. Questions or comments? I do thank you for the making that for me. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Anybody opposed?
Motion carries.
Okay, people, any items that you want placed on the cow for November? Any come to mind? I only have one. Can we have a breakdown, since we're now under 800 students for the entire school district for the first time ever, as of the county, I think. Could we please have a breakdown on how we lose students and they're not counted, like from 1 month to the next? I just don't understand how we can start out with a number of kids, say, on August 25th, and be less than that a couple months later. I just wanted to know on that. And second one is, can we have a breakdown on how cyber compares to in-person learning and homeschooling compares to in-person learning?
Numbers.
Numbers and performance, please. And how we can tell the difference. And that's for the cow.
Yeah,
if you
I
don't
can
mind.
definitely do numbers. Performance, we don't know anything about cyber school performance or homeschools.
Okay.
If they're in our cyber, we do though,
Our cyber, I can, yes.
can we
our
gather what
cyber.
you have? And how many are in our cyber of all the cyber kids, like if we can get those numbers,
So I can give you NC cyber.
what percentage, yeah,
Other
the numbers,
cybers.
right, correct, so we can see where our students in this district are being placed.
Well,
or
and not
choosing
just
to be
that, but we were asked at the beginning of our tenure to try to come up with ways to get people back into in-person learning instead of being in cyber school, because we pay a lot of money for that. So if we can figure out why they're going there, maybe we can figure out how to bring them back. That's where I'm heading with this question, I think, because until we know what's going on, we don't have any answers of why or how we can bring it back. But that's my,
I can give
That's
you
my
a couple of things. I will definitely do all of that for you. One of the reasons is truancy. When we file truancy, that's usually when they pull out and go to cyber. Another reason is some parents are just very fearful of security and safety. And so the cyber schools are growing because of that. So parents are pulling kids out of public schools to put them in the cyber school so they can stay home where they feel they're more secure.
how do you know this?
I know this from experience as a principal. Whenever I would put students in, take them to the magistrate, the first thing they wanted to do, they pull their kid out and put him in cyber. Lisa has the same experience. I'm also have colleagues who work at cyber schools, and they are saying the biggest reason that they're having such an influx of students coming into the cyber schools, the parents are saying they're concerned for safety reasons with what's happening in the country, with school shootings and things such as that. So that's how I know those two things.
Can we have a further breakdown on the number of truancy cases we have and the number of parents that, like I said, compared to in-school and that kind of stuff, include truancy numbers in that, if you don't mind. Anybody have anything else? Yeah, Carol.
So since the, Ginger came and looked at the high school, I'd like an update as to what's happening there. She was looking for her second part of the payment. So I want to know if that was, issued to her and if she gave a date as to when the report
I'm confused about the second part of the payment.
Well-
She wanted a down payment, which
You
she
did.
was going to. I thought she was gonna come down here that day.
There wasn't anyone down here after we finished.
This is our building appraisal, right?
Yeah.
Just for the record.
So anyway, I emailed her, she got her check, I told her I would mail the check. My opinion is that I don't think we should pay her until we get a report. The second payment should not be submitted until we get a final document. I mean, if she's asking for a second payment, that is news to me.
But she did after Jeff was there.
Yeah, I think she was looking for her first half. She
Yeah,
was gonna
I mean,
have
I don't-
vibes to, and then the other half when she conducted
So-
the walk.
So she just got the first half, is what you're saying.
Correct, and
Did
we had told her when she submitted that she was going to come here. We sent her a letter, or I sent her an email saying, your check is here. You can pick it up when you come down to do your appraisal. Oh, no, we even asked her if she wanted to have the amount submitted, and she said no, that it would, whenever she came down here to do her appraisal. Again, that day was the first day I got back from vacation, and I came down here.
And there was a
Then
draft.
you guys were there, I don't even know how long you were there, I had too many other things to do, I was gonna walk through
2.5,
there.
3 hours.
So anyhow, the point was, is that when I found out that she was asking for her check, I submitted her an email and said it's in, that I would send it that day, which I did. But there's never been a question to me about second check, nor do I think we should issue a second check until that project is done.
Okay, well, I mean, we were done and she was asking for her check. She said, do you have a check for me? And I said, no, I don't have a check for you. But
Well, again,
And-
I think Jeff hit it on the head when she's asking for a check, I think she meant her deposit. Or did she specifically say a second check?
No, she didn't say.
Oh,
so. She just asked for a check and I did not have a check for her.
Jeff, is there anything we need to go over tonight, or can we wait for the cow?
I'm gonna wait for the cow.
Wait for the cow?
There'll be a list.
I was gonna say, if you don't mind, would you put a list together, because
Or a
before the
building
cow, we're probably gonna have a building meeting.
Before the cow.
We're gonna probably have a building meeting just on that stuff for Hank and the stuff, you know, that we found we might need to do.
I will do that.
Okay, thanks. Do we have anything else? Do we need an executive session? I think we should have a short one. That's just a real short one. Okay. So there will not be any voting after we come out of the executive session. Okay, and so you guys all have a good night. We're going to go into executive session at 7:09 p.m. Thank you. We're gonna use this window.